Resident Evil Code Veronica is one of my favorite Resident Evils, but unfortunately it's also very flawed and can get very frustrating if you don't know certain things. So here are some tips you should know before playing it to have the least frustrating first time experience possible. Use the knife. Trust me, it's easier than it sounds like. There are a lot of enemies in the game and luckily there's also quite a lot of ammo. Just not enough to kill everything. Especially the first half of the game features mainly zombies and zombie dogs, which can be killed easily with the knife. But don't stress yourself too much either, because you don't need to kill everything with it. But make sure to use it as much as possible to save as much ammo as possible. As the game progresses, there will be a lot of more difficult enemies that aren't killed as easily by the knife, and you will be very thankful for the additional ammo by then. But here's some easy advice on how to use it. Firstly, make sure you aren't pointed at a wall, because the knife will actually collide with it, making it obviously a lot less useful. Secondly, make some space between you and the enemy. Obviously this isn't possible everywhere, but will help you to set up the attack properly if it is. Thirdly, aim at the legs in case you are fighting a zombie and at the floor if you are fighting a dog. This causes them to fall to the ground, where they are defenseless against you and your knife, and then you can actually just unlock the out of them. Feel free to shoot them with the pistol first to make them fall to the ground without risking getting bitten, especially if you are low on health. And don't worry, you don't need to be a pro gamer to use it, because it's incredibly powerful and actually very satisfying as well, even if you don't know what you're doing. Dodge enemies and don't fight everything. This is just a typical survival horror advice, but particularly valuable here. If you see enough space to move around an enemy, then use it and don't bother fighting it. Especially the outer areas will allow you to avoid any fighting most of the time. I recommend to only do it if you are able to get around them without getting hit though, which is easy in large areas but can be hard indoors or against large enemy groups. So don't hesitate to just kill them, or at least some of them in these situations. Here's also some more specific advice on different enemies. Run past the Bandersnatch on the left side if possible and not on the right with the large arm. In my experience, this will often help you avoid getting hit by them. The dog can be often dodged by running in a zigzag pattern, so just do it even if it seems useless. Bats won't harm you if you equip the lighter, and just don't even think about fighting them. Make sure to have inventory space at all times. This is also typical for survival horror games, but particularly valuable here again. Code Veronica has a lot of areas that are connected by long paths and are very big. Additionally, item boxes are far apart from each other. Therefore, it's important to make sure to have available inventory space for key and healing items you find along the way at all times, because you need to backtrack a lot otherwise. Having to backtrack so much obviously takes a lot of time, is annoying, and creates additional enemy encounters if you haven't killed everything, which I don't advise like I said before. In my experience, it's completely sufficient to only take the knife, one gun with some ammo, one healing item, and if needed a key item with you, and leave the rest of the inventory available. This isn't a strict rule and you can change it up slightly, for example with an additional healing item if you really feel like you need it, but just remember to leave some space. You will be thankful for it. And I will be thankful if you subscribe. According to YouTube, a lot of you hadn't yet, even though you watch the videos. So please do so if you are enjoying this video and want to support me. Thank you. Save your best weapons for bosses. Don't even think about wasting grenade launcher rounds, explosive arrows or magnum rounds for normal enemies. You need them in the boss fights. Seriously. The first half of the game is easily beatable by using only pistols, the knife and the bowgun with non-explosive arrows. The second half is easily done by using the pistols, shotgun and for hunters only the explosive rounds. By doing this, you will have a brutal arsenal for bosses and can just blast them to death without even thinking too much. I didn't even have to use the magnum on my last playthrough, but in the end it's better to have too many resources instead of too few. Apart from that, it's very important to leave the BOW gas rounds for a boss on a plane. I don't want to spoil too much, but they make the fight a cakewalk instead of a nightmare. Make sure to save regularly and on different slots. Like in the previous Resident Evil installments, you have to save with ink ribbons, and there are no autosaves in the proper sense. That means if you die, you are at risk of losing quite a lot of progress. So make sure to save regularly. I usually save around every 10 to 20 minutes of progress, depending on my position on the map, and I recommend you to do around the same. There are over 50 ink ribbons in the game, so don't worry, there are more than enough. Apart from that, it features multiple save slots, so use them and don't just overwrite the same slot every time. Trust me, there's a good chance you will regret that later otherwise if you don't play perfectly. Be aware of possible softlocks. There are multiple points in the game where you switch characters and continue with the items that were left in the item box previously. That means if you don't put certain strong weapons in the item box, for example the grenade launcher, before switching, you will be locked out of using them until you switch again, which might not happen very soon. This is also one of the reasons why you should use multiple save slots and save resources for bosses, because otherwise you might be screwed over hard, without a way to continue because you simply lack the required resources. Of course, technically speaking, you could be a master with the knife and just slash your way through the game, but you probably aren't considering you watched this video. Anyway, here are the exact points where you should save, because it's a large chance to do so before switching characters. Skip to the mark on screen if you don't want to spoil yourself, and I will also put a link to my playthrough of the game in the description with corresponding timecodes. The first switch is from Claire to Chris after fighting Nosferatu. The last chance to save before this fight is before picking up the sniper rifle, because once you have done this, a cutscene starts and you won't get another chance until after this boss fight. It's also the last thing you do at the Antarctic base as Claire, so consider saving if you feel like you're close to being done. The second switch is back from Chris to Claire, after freeing her from that weird ass shit on the wall, so make sure to save before you free her. There's also a boss fight as Chris after that, so you might want to do that anyway. It's also important to don't take anything from the item box once you play as Claire, apart from maybe 2 health items and a pistol with some ammo, because you really don't need anything else when playing as her, before switching back to Chris for the rest of the game. And here are some additional smaller tips that are smaller. Exam key items. Often there are hidden buttons on them that you need to press in order to continue, or critical information for puzzles and codes. Both Chris and Claire have a lot more health than in previous games, so you can get bitten a lot before needing to heal. Don't overdo it, but you don't need to heal after like every bite. Be extremely careful with hunters and heal to at least fine. On caution, they can insta-kill you very easily, like in previous games as well. And at last, don't take the story too seriously for your own enjoyment. It's cheesy, over the top, and pretty stupid at times, but also one of the most entertaining ones, so just enjoy it and have fun. I hope this video was helpful to you, and thanks for watching. Feel free to comment additional advices in the comments in case I have missed anything. Apart from that, please consider subscribing, liking and sharing the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you and see you next time.